Welcome to the Board of Directors of the Commission on Accreditation of Medical Physics Education Programs, or CAMPEP. You will have some challenges ahead of you as you participate in the accreditation of medical physics educational programs, and we hope this orientation will assist you in understanding the context in which you will be working. The purpose of this orientation is to introduce new CAMPEP board members to the CAMPEP organization. Very likely, this orientation can also serve as a good review of CAMPEP for existing board members. In this presentation, we will cover the organization of CAMPEP, the relationship of CAMPEP to other organizations whose actions affect medical physicists, and the process by which an educational program undergoes accreditation. We will also identify the key documents that describe the management of CAMPEP, the accreditation process, and the standards that a program must meet in order to become accredited. We also want to call your attention to the Education Council Symposium from the 2020 AAPM annual meeting. The title of the symposium was CAMPEP 101, and it provided the medical physics community with an introduction to the workings of CAMPEP. The presentation should be available from the AAPM virtual library. If at any time during this presentation you have a question, please use the chat utility to ask the question. At the end of this presentation, I shall entertain these questions. CAMPEP is governed by a board of directors. Each of the 5 organizations that sponsor CAMPEP may nominate up to 3 individuals for each of 2 positions. The existing board selects new members from these nominations. Once elected to the board, an individual is expected to act in the best interest of the board and not necessarily that of the nominating organization. Specifically, board members are nominated by a sponsoring organization, but do not represent that organization or its interests. 3 additional individuals also serve on the board. These 3 individuals are the chairs of the 3 review committees: the Continuing Education Review Committee, or CERC, chaired by Jacqueline Gallet; the Graduate Education Program Review Committee, or GEPRC, chaired by David Hintonlang; and the Residency Program Review Committee, or REPRC, chaired by Nesrin Dogan. In addition, 2 non-voting members are included on the board. The board contracts with an executive secretary, a board-certified medical physicist who is responsible for many of the administrative activities of the organization. The contract with the executive secretary is reviewed every year at the board meeting held in conjunction with the AAPM annual meeting. Since 2011, the executive secretary has been George Starkshall. The board also contracts with the AAPM to provide administrative assistance to the organization, handle the organization's finances, and provide meeting space. The administrative secretary, an employee of the AAPM, is Jackie Ogburn. The officers of CAMPEP are selected by the board from board members. Officers include a president, a vice president, and a treasurer. For 2021, the CAMPEP president is Mike McNitt Gray. The vice president is Bob Pizzatello, and the treasurer is Robert Uri. In addition, CAMPEP has a liaison to SDAMP, the Society of Directors of Academic Medical Physics Programs. For 2021, the CAMPEP liaison to SDAMP is Jay Burmeister. The board holds monthly teleconferences. These are held on the third Friday of every month in which there are no other board meetings. Meetings are scheduled from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time. Board members are expected to attend meetings or notify the executive secretary if they are not able to attend. Occasionally, board meetings are canceled if there is no activity scheduled for that meeting. The board holds an annual retreat, a day-long meeting typically in March or April. The retreat is held at the AAPM headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia. In addition, the board holds 3 to 4 hour meetings in conjunction with the AAPM meeting in July or August and the RSNA meeting the week after Thanksgiving. CAMPEP has a well-defined role in relationship to that of other organizations whose actions impact medical physicists. Specifically, CAMPEP accredits educational programs. The AAPM defines the scope of work of a medical physicist and the definition of a qualified medical physicist. SDAMP identifies the best ways to educate medical physicists, and the ABR certifies individual medical physicists. When an issue is presented to one of these organizations that lies within the scope of another organization, the issue is directed toward the appropriate organization. We should also mention CHIA, the Council for Higher Education Accreditation. This organization can be viewed as a meta-accreditation body. It recognizes accreditation agencies that meet a set of quality standards. CAMPEP is a CHIA-recognized accreditation organization. CAMPEP accredits various types of educational programs. It accredits didactic graduate programs, including MS, PhD, and DMP programs. CAMPEP accredits certificate programs. These programs are designed to provide individuals who hold a PhD in a physics discipline other than medical physics with the appropriate didactic preparation for a clinical residency in medical physics. CAMPEP accredits clinical residency programs in medical physics. Finally, CAMPEP accredits continuing education programs. The board has relatively little interaction with continuing education programs, as the accreditation of these programs is handled by the CERC following procedures established by the board. Because much of your activity as a board member will involve making decisions on accreditation, it is important for you to understand the process of accreditation. An educational program is considered accredited when it meets a set of specific, well-defined standards. CAMPEP has one set of standards for graduate programs and another parallel set of standards for residency programs. New programs go through an initial accreditation, while existing programs go through re-accreditation. In order to achieve program accreditation, whether initial accreditation or re-accreditation, a program director prepares a self-study that demonstrates that the program complies with the CAMPEP standards and submits the self-study along with an accreditation fee to CAMPEP. The self-study is directed to the chair of the appropriate review committee, graduate or residency, who assigns a review team to evaluate the self-study. This review team generally consists of 2 physicists who have had experience in reviewing program self-studies. Often, a 3rd reviewer in training is added to the review team. In addition, the initial review of a residency program will include a physician reviewer. The review team will work with the program director, if necessary, recommending modifications in the educational program to produce a self-study that demonstrates that the program meets CAMPEP standards. If the program is a graduate program, a site visit by the review team comes next. In the site visit, the review team meets with the program director, the program steering committee, administrators, other program faculty, and students to complete their picture of the program. The review team then makes a recommendation to the GEPRC for a 3-year initial accreditation. The recommendation is followed by a 2-week online discussion period and a vote. A majority vote of the GEPRC will bring the program up before the board. Because a residency program must be accredited before it accepts any residents, its site visit is deferred until a resident has been in the program for a year. The review team makes its recommendation to the REPRC without a site visit. The recommendation to the REPRC is for a 2-year provisional accreditation with an additional year extension after the site visit. As with the graduate program review, the recommendation is followed by a 2-week online discussion period and a vote. A majority vote of the REPRC will bring the program up before the board. The board then reviews the program. The review period is at least 2 weeks and lasts until the next board meeting. Face-to-face discussion of the program occurs at the meeting or teleconference, followed by an online vote. A majority vote of the board grants the program accreditation. As mentioned earlier, initial accreditation for a graduate program is for 3 years. During that period, annual reports are reviewed. If everything looks satisfactory, the program is granted an additional 2 years of accreditation. For a residency program, Provisional accreditation is granted for 2 years. After a resident has been in the program for a year, a site visit is conducted. After the site visit, accreditation is extended for an additional year. After 3 years of satisfactory annual reports, the program can be granted an additional 2 years of accreditation. The additional 2 years of accreditation does not need board review. It is based solely on the recommendation of the appropriate review committee chair. The program review process is quite lengthy, and it is possible that a program's accreditation expires while the program is being reviewed. In that event, an administrative accreditation extension may be granted to enable the program's accreditation to continue while the program is under review. Approximately 1 year before the accreditation of a program is set to expire, the program director is reminded to renew the program's accreditation. Renewal is done by submitting a new self-study and paying the accreditation fee. A review team is formed, preferably consisting of the same individuals who reviewed the program for the initial accreditation, and the self-study is sent to the review team. No site visit is performed for the 5-year reaccreditation. The review team makes its recommendations to the review committee, which then passes a recommendation to the board, which votes on the reaccreditation. The next time the program is up for reaccreditation, that is the 10-year review, the program undergoes a site visit. Site visits are thus held every 10 years. In addition to the self-study, which is submitted every 5 years, CAMPEP keeps track of each accredited program on an annual basis. This is done through an annual online survey. The survey is conducted jointly by CAMPEP and SDAMP. In addition to gathering statistical data about educational programs, the survey monitors changes that occur in an educational program. Residency programs also complete supplementary reports. In these reports, they identify students entering and graduating from programs, as well as changing in the staffing and resources of programs. CAMPEP has 3 major documents: a set of policies and procedures and standards for both graduate programs and residency programs. All 3 documents are publicly available on the CAMPEP website. Shortly, we will outline what is in each of these documents. These documents are continually being modified and updated. The board reviews and votes on each proposed change to these documents. Moreover, any significant changes in standards require a 30-day period to receive feedback from program directors. After CAMPEP receives feedback on a new or revised standard from program directors, it may modify the standard to reflect the feedback. Now, let us look at these documents. The Policies and Procedures document, which we call the P&P, describes the operations of our organization. It is divided into 10 sections. The first section is an introduction that identifies the organization, defines what we mean by accreditation, identifies the 5 sponsoring organizations, and provides a brief history of medical physics accreditation. Section B consists of the bylaws of our organization, and Section C identifies the duties of the officers. Sections D and E are probably the most important sections for board members to review. Section D deals with the administration of CAMPEP, including the establishment of a board of directors, establishment of the program review committees, contracts with the executive secretary and administrative support organizations, payment of fees, and reimbursement of travel expenses. Section D also enables the organization to establish and maintain the graduate and residency standards documents. Section E addresses the accreditation procedures that are common to all the review committees. This section also defines the scope of CAMPEP's activities, that is, accreditation of graduate programs, residency programs, professional programs that combine didactic education with clinical training, certificate programs, and continuing education programs. Also in Section E is a confidentiality statement, the procedure for programs to appeal a CAMPEP decision, and the procedure for a program to appoint a new program director. The remainder of the policies and procedures are relatively straightforward, describing the specific procedures for accreditation of graduate programs, residency programs, certificate programs, continuing education programs, and professional doctorate programs. The basis for a program's accreditation is its adherence to a set of standards. CAMPEP has 2 standards documents, graduate standards and residency standards. The 2 documents are designed to parallel each other. Standard 1 addresses the program goal and objectives. The program must state its mission and its objectives and demonstrate they are consistent with CAMPEP's goals and objectives. Standard 2 deals with the program structure and governance. The institution housing the educational program must be accredited by an appropriate accreditation organization. For example, a university housing a graduate program must be accredited by one of several regional accreditation agencies. A hospital housing a residency program should be accredited by an organization such as the Joint Commission. The institution housing the program must also be appropriate for the type of program. A graduate program shall be located in a university environment, while a residency program shall be located in an appropriate clinical environment. Oversight of the program shall be done by a steering committee that meets at least twice a year. There must be a mechanism for students or residents to communicate with this committee, and the committee must conduct an annual review of the program. Programs must provide students and residents with due process prior to possible termination. This has been an issue on a few occasions, in particular with residencies in private organizations. Often, employees of such organizations are hired at an at-will basis. This means that a resident could be terminated at any time, for any reason, or for no reason at all. This arrangement, in our opinion, is not fair to trainees, but most of the time, when we bring this issue to the sponsoring organization's attention, they recognize our point of view and lift the at-will designation from the appointment. The next issue, covered in Standard 2, is the display of trainee information. The standard requires that the program display on a public website student or resident statistics. These statistics include the number of applicants, number of students or residents accepted, number entering program, and subsequent positions of graduates. The last items in Standard 2 cover the situation in which a program has had no enrollees. Standard 3 addresses applicants. The physics preparation of applicants is identified, and the standard requires the program to explicitly state how deficiencies in preparation are handled. The standard also requires the program to explicitly describe the process of admissions and evaluation of candidates. Standard 4 requires that there be a documented procedure for appointing a program director, along with a list of qualifications and responsibilities of the program director. Standard 5 addresses the program faculty. There needs to be an adequate number of qualified faculty who have been given sufficient time to teach students or residents, and the standard describes the required qualifications of the faculty. Standard 6 describes the institutional requirements needed to support an educational program. This includes a commitment to provide adequate administrative support and financial support for the term of accreditation. Standard 7 has to do with the educational environment, including conferences and seminars, access to journals and books, as well as access to clinical and research resources. Finally, Standard 8 describes the curriculum. Rather than identifying individual courses, the graduate curriculum identifies topics, and in completing a self-study, the program director needs to identify the course or courses in which these topics are covered. For residency programs, the curriculum identifies specific rotations, their objectives, their time frame, and the methods for evaluation of resident programs. In completing the self-study, the program director indicates how each of these standards is met. In addition, the program director identifies strengths, weaknesses, and goals for the future. Finally, appendices provide documentation of many of the statements made by the program director in the self-study. Well, this concludes the presentation. Let's see if there are any questions.